Settlers and soldiers close the road by the rocks and shooting by guns and kill my brother and his son.
Show me an international law that says that that the Jewish presence in this territory is illegal.
I'm talking about the UN Security Council
On what
resolutions,
basis?
the
They
European
simply say,
Union,
they say over and over
the International
that it
Court
is
of Justice.
illegal. On what basis?
So the only way to do it is to first destroy all the military groups and any way of resistance inside the Palestinian cities. When they do this, they will be able, without resistance, to take the land.
So this may look like we're in the Gaza Strip, but we're actually in Jenin. This is not Gaza. This is the Jenin refugee camp inside the West Bank, several hours north of Jerusalem.
احنا كتير الدنيا.
Isn't there a threat, like a risk?
لا عادي.
Enter the West Bank and you enter a landscape of conflict. The first sight, the giant wall built by Israel that encloses Palestinian areas. Even as outside the wall, Israeli settlements, deemed illegal under international law, expand rapidly. The wall is old. We are on our way to report on the flaring of new conflicts. Our destination, Qusra, a Palestinian village near the town of Nablus, ringed by settlements.
What are the settlements that you can see?
The settlement, this Esh Kodesh.
That is Esh Kodesh.
Yes.
Okay.
And this Ihya.
Ihya is on that hill?
Yes,
Okay.
that hill. And you can see another up where's the mountain.
Yes.
In the left, you
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
Kida.
Kida.
Yes.
Okay.
And after another settlement, Ali Ad.
Aliyad.
And another settlement you can see from here.
For years, the Palestinians of Qusra faced daily harassment from Israeli settlers, says Abed Hakim Wadi, a local farmer and activist.
And you can see here, they destroyed the olive tree.
Okay.
Everything here,
Okay.
you see another side. And they destroyed the olives in this area and put grapes.
Then, on October 7th last year, Hamas attacked Israel. 4 days later, 130 miles away, Israeli settlers came looking for revenge. Masked, armed settlers seen in this video opening fire on the home of Awad Odeh. When young men in the village came to help Awad, 3 were shot dead. His cousin Muad, Obada Abu Sroor, and Musab Abdel Abu Rida, 17 years old. This is Musab's elder brother, Muhammad.
Where did they shoot him? Which? They shot him in the...
When Sasa Ajato.
They shot him here in the
Yeah.
side.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Was he very close to his brother? They were very close.
يعني انت كانت علاقتك قريبة من اخوك
طبعا يعني اخوي يعني طبعا الروح في الروح لا شك يعني الواحد أخوه
Same soul.
يعني بقتلكم يكون والكعدي كعدي
They were like one
Every
soul,
time together.
all the time together.
Yes.
طبعا
كل الوقت مع بعض. Not easy. Difficult.
Difficult.
The violence didn't end there. The next day, settlers attacked the funeral procession. They shot and killed Abed's brother Ibrahim Wadi and Ibrahim's son Ahmed, 26, a lawyer.
That was in morning of 12th October when they crossed the road near the Sawiya to come to Qusra with the 4 ambulance. They find the settlers and soldiers close the road by the rocks and they want to burn the body of the Shaheed, poor Shaheed, and shooting by guns and kill my brother and his son.
The army is meant to protect both settlers and Palestinians, but did nothing, says Abed.
When the settlers were attacking your family, was there any army around that time?
The soldier with the settlers together was shooting.
The soldiers,
Together. We have video about that.
right.
Yes, I'm not talking just.
So the soldiers were also right there.
Yes, same
With the settlers.
with the settlers. Same. Every time the settlers not come alone with the soldier to save him.
In a video of the chaos at the funeral procession, an army vehicle pulls up and fires on the ground to disperse the Palestinians. A year later, there is still no action against the killers.
Nothing has
Nothing
happened.
happened because the law in his hand. No, if you go to the court
Right.
work with the occupation. You under the occupation. How the occupation give you a space to talk in the court? They didn't give you space. They didn't take care about who killed, who injured.
So anyone was arrested for the attack on your brother and his son? Any
No.
of the settlers, were they arrested?
Nobody.
When you're a journalist, you get used to this. Security forces won't respond to queries, politicians will refuse to answer, governments go after you, because this isn't the story they want told. But that's why these stories matter. Journalism is inconvenient, it's disruptive and uncomfortable because it asks questions when others don't. You are helping us ask these questions and have been for a long time. You're pushing back against narratives that don't add up. Across India, in Israel, in Gaza, and you can help us ask these questions again in the United States, where Sreenivasan Jain will report on one of the biggest elections of the year. Log on to newslaundry.com/subscription or scan the QR code on your screens, choose an amount and fund journalism that seeks answers.
The violence that convulsed Qusra and the absence of justice isn't new. The radical settler movement has long held the goal of expelling Palestinians and expanding the Jewish footprint in the West Bank. Since Hamas's October 7th attack, though, the violence has spiked, the UN recording over 1,300 incidents in this period.
The friction in the West Bank was rising even before Hamas's October 7th attack. Here's the context. The West Bank is a separate Palestinian enclave to Gaza. It's been under Israeli occupation for the past 6 decades. In this time, Israel has ensured the rapid expansion of such settlements across this entire region, shrinking the amount of space Palestinians have to live and to work, even though settlements like these are widely considered illegal under international law.
Multiple resolutions of the UN Security Council have deemed Israeli settlements illegal. The European Union, settlement building anywhere in the occupied Palestinian territory constitutes an obstacle to peace. Just 3 months ago, the International Court of Justice had to remind Israel that its presence in the occupied territories is illegal.
Yet, far from slowing down, the growth of the settlements and the annexation of Palestinian lands has been turbocharged after Prime Minister Netanyahu, battling corruption charges and falling short of a majority, came to power with the most right-wing government in Israel's history.
Netanyahu's coalition partners include leaders like Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's finance minister, an ultra-right settler himself who's been granted administrative oversight of the West Bank. Smotrich has made no bones about his intentions. My life's mission is to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state, he told colleagues in June this year. Under his watch, the seizure of Palestinian land and the demolition of Palestinian homes has spiked. Yet, some Israelis want their government to do even more. Naomi Khan works with Regavim, an Israeli settler group that maps what they claim are illegal Palestinian construction activities in the West Bank and petitions to have them demolished.
Sometimes we'll petition against a particular structure in order to highlight this failure of governance.
She drives us to Efrat, an Israeli settlement near the Palestinian town of Bethlehem. Here she points to Palestinian structures that she says have been deemed illegal but are yet to be demolished, like a home and a cluster of schools.
Everything you see here in the foreground, every single one of these structures is illegal.
These structures?
Every single thing you see here. Yes,
and these are structures, Palestinian
structures.
There was something ironic about illegal Palestinian structures being pointed out as we stood inside an Israeli settlement that itself is illegal under international law.
So how would you respond to the argument that it's kind of the inverse, that it's actually the Israeli settlements which are illegal under international law? I mean, there's overwhelming global consensus.
Show me an international law that says that the Jewish presence in this territory is illegal.
I'm talking about the UN Security Council
resolutions.
On what basis?
They
the European Union.
They say over and over
the International Court of
Justice.
Illegal.
On what basis? There is no basis for that.
Naomi was repeating Israel's official line, which rejects global consensus on the illegality of settlements. Even as the Israeli military body that oversees civil issues in the West Bank has rejected 95% of Palestinian applications for building permits, setting the stage for their demolition. The demolition of Palestinian dwellings, expanding settlements, rising settler attacks. Alongside all of these, the West Bank is grappling with a new escalation in the aftermath of October 7th. Ground zero to witness it, the Jenin refugee camp inside the Palestinian town of Jenin. For 10 days starting late August this year, the Israeli army launched a major Gaza-style offensive here with drones, helicopters, bulldozers. They say to target Palestinian militants. This is the aftermath.
So this may look like we're in the Gaza Strip, but we're actually in Jenin. This is not Gaza. This is the Jenin refugee camp inside the West Bank, several hours north of Jerusalem. And what you're seeing here is the aftermath of one of the most intense sets of military actions by the Israeli forces after the Hamas October 7th attack. What you're seeing, the camera can pan, is the aftermath of Israeli army bulldozers which dug up roads because they said that there is the possibility of landmines. You can see still some of the rubble from all these different strikes, and that's because the army claims Jenin had become an increasingly dangerous place, a hotbed of Palestinian armed resistance, and that's why they had to go all out.
It's not just Jenin. Since October 7th, the army has ramped up raids on all key Palestinian cities in the West Bank they consider hotbeds of militancy. Shuruk Assad heads a Palestinian journalism collective in Ramallah. She says the raids are part of Israel's new strategy after October 7th to not just go after Hamas in Gaza, but also Palestinian armed groups in the West Bank. She says the idea is to remove all resistance to Israeli settler expansion.
So the only way to do it is to first destroy all the military groups and any way of
resistance
inside the Palestinian cities and refugee camps. The war against refugee camps, especially, because this is where the mostly young armed Palestinians are within the society itself.
Right.
When they do this, they will be able, without resistance, to take the land, to displace as much Palestinians as they can.
The new Israeli aggression, she says, is fueling a Palestinian backlash.
It is an existence pattern for the Palestinians.
That's why these
That's
people-
why they are full of anger. They lost their colleagues, they lost their loved ones. They feel under threat, big threat. So for them, we're having more and more numbers of youth who really want to carry out this.
In Jenin camp, those rising numbers visible the moment you enter. Armed Palestinian fighters stop us. After we explain we are journalists, they take us to meet their comrades. These are the men of the recently created Jenin Brigade. An estimated 14 of their fighters killed in Israel's August raid. But that has not deterred them, says this fighter.
Can he tell us about himself, his name and what group is he part of?
احنا بكتيبة جنين
And how long has he been with them?
سنتين. 2 years.
For 2 years. What made him join?
جهاد بسبيل الله.
Okay. But isn't there a threat, like a risk? Isn't there a risk to him, like threat? He may get killed, shaheed.
لا عادي.
The cult of martyrdom everywhere on the walls of Jenin camp. Fighters killed in past and recent battles. Just the day before we arrive, new martyrs have joined their ranks. In Kabatia, in Jenin, a large crowd gathers for the funeral of 2 fighters killed in an Israeli raid a day earlier.
So we are at a funeral just outside the town of Jenin, and you can see that you have members of Palestinian armed group that is here as a show of strength, because amongst those who are going to be buried today are 2 of their members who were killed in an Israeli strike that just happened 24 hours before we arrived here.
As their bodies are taken for last rites, gunshots ring out. The mood is volatile. In the hunt for militants, Israel had targeted a school complex here. In its aftermath, soldiers were filmed pushing and kicking the bodies of Palestinian fighters killed in the raid from the roof of the building. The increasing appeal of a Palestinian armed response to Israel's heightened post-October 7th aggression underlines another tragic facet of the conflict: the collapsing hold of the moderate Palestinian Authority. Headed by its president Mahmoud Abbas, the PA is meant to be the sole authority of Palestinian areas in the West Bank, like Jenin. Instead, many Palestinians see the PA as ineffective in protecting them from Israeli attacks.
Palestinian Authority failed. And Palestinian Authority does not represent me as a Palestinian. And I say this. Last election was when? Years ago. Who are those people? Who are they? Why they talk in my name? I did not elect them.
Nothing highlights the PA's diminished role more than the presence of the mayor of Jenin, a PA official, at the funeral of the fighters.
So he is with Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. But that's the question, that does Palestinian Authority have full control here? Because you look at the number of these armed fighters, they've all, taken loyalty of different groups. So are they really in charge?
يعني شوف سبق انه قبل الاجتياحات هاي 55 يوم الجيش الاسرائيلي ما دخلش محافظة جنين، كان الامن والامان يسود وكان الاقتصاد منتعش، ولكن الاسرائيل ما بركوا لها انه يشوفوا الوضع الامني والسلطة الوطنية تبسط سيطرتها، ولكن هم بدخولهم المتكرر هم يحاولوا انهم يحرجوا السلطة الفلسطينية امام شعبنا، بالتالي يضعفوا الامن امام شعبنا.
The main victims of this deadly matrix, ordinary Palestinians. A few miles away, a quiet funeral for one of them. Muhammad Omar Khamira, 22, laid to rest here. His uncle says Muhammad, who works as a cook in a restaurant in Kabatia, was shot in the raid by Israeli forces when he had come to pick his cousin up from school.
في الحقيقة يعني كان في له ابن أخت في المدرسة مع الطلاب المحاصرين، لأنه البيت اللي حاصروه الجيش جنب المدرسة بالضبط، فكان بده يروح يجيب ابن أخته من المدرسة. أطلقوا عليه النار 3 رصاصات، 2 في الصدر وواحدة في راسه.
According to the United Nations, a majority of those killed in Israel's raids on the West Bank are civilians like Muhammad. I ask his uncle, isn't the presence of Palestinian fighters also to blame for placing civilians at risk? And what signal does it send to Jenin's children growing up amid the cult of martyrdom? He, however, solely blames Israel.
يعني بدي أقول لك شغلة، يعني المناظر أنت اللي بتشوفها كإنسان، أنا ابني مش قادر أسيطر عليه. كيف يعني لما بتشوف انت جيش بقتلوا 3 على ظاهر سطح بمنزل وبرموا الجثث بالطريقه هاي يعني الوحشيه، الطريقه الوحشيه اللي هي عباره عن زي ما تقول كيف يعني بيمثلوا في جثث. الطفل هذا لما بشوف هذا المنظر شو بده يصير عنده شعور؟ انه هذول جماعه مجرمين جايين بدهم يقتلونا وبدهم يمثلوا جثثنا، بدهم ياخذوا كل شيء منا، كرامتنا، انسانيتنا. بالضبط، يعني شو بتتوقع منه؟ شو يفكر بالمستقبل لما يكبر؟ شو بده يفكر؟ بالضبط، شو بده يفكر؟ شو بده يعمل؟ بده يواجه مين؟
The future for now seems dark. Israel's West Bank offensive, expanding settlements, settler attacks, army raids show no sign of letting up. After Gaza, a new tinderbox in the making.